Good evening and welcome to the Winston-Salem Forsyth County Board of Education Special Call Meeting for June 29th, 2021. I'm Shay Woodbury, the chair of the board. I'm going to go ahead and call our meeting to order. I think we definitely have a quorum here tonight. The only one is missing is our Vice Chair Calvert Hayes. I think I need I have the agenda for,
You need this one?
Let me see here. I got it, sorry. Yeah. So I need to, I was just telling one of my board members, I said, where's the agenda review? 'Cause we have two agendas up here tonight, so I said, I found it now, thank you. So I need a motion to approve the agenda for this evening.
So moved.
Second.
There are no question or discussion. Let it be known by aye in favor.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. The next item on our agenda is the public comment on agenda items. During this portion, I will tell you that you can only comment on the specific agenda items for this meeting tonight. Be mindful that you'll have 3 minutes to make your comments to me as the chair. We do not respond to comments or questions. If need be, we will direct your concerns, however, to someone on staff. We do ask that you are considerate and kind in your comments. We do not discuss any private or personnel issues regarding staff or any of our students. So please also be mindful of that. As the chair, I can at any point in time, if the comments are not relevant or appropriate, stop your period. So just be mindful of that too. The first person we have on our list tonight is Harold. You're going to have to pronounce your correct. I'm sorry? Ustash.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. So the issue with the Easter budget is why I'm here. And I think that's on the agenda. So there's 2 issues that I have. The first one is that the Easter budget talks about an equity and access portion. And it says that it will ensure equal and equitable access to quality instruction and strive to eliminate barriers to rigorous and diverse and provide diverse opportunities. Just some background, I went to Wake Forest Law School. I took critical race theory at Wake Forest Law School in 2014. I wrote a 20-page paper on it. I say that to say I have a graduate level understanding of what it is. Okay, the issue is between equal and equitable. There's a reason that you hear the word equitable all the time hammered by certain people in our politics and in our country. It's because there's a difference between the two. One is saying we want equal access, which is right. We should all want that. Equal access for our children in every way, in every type of child. But equitable is different. Equitable means that we're gonna have equal outcomes. And if the outcomes aren't equal, there's something systemically wrong. Words you hear that have to do with CRT, systemic, equity, inclusion. That's what they're trying to push. And that's what this Easter budget, in my opinion, is trying to impliedly push. I would say, along with that, there is some very concerning support by Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools on the bookmarks program that is a not required reading for summer, but also is pushing books like Stamp for Kids and that sort of stuff that goes along with this equity and access portion. It's all trying to push CRT, and we've got to stop that. The second thing is, in the Easter budget, it talks about, in the PowerPoint, mentoring for black males. Obviously, I'm a black male, and I take a lot of pride in that. We are not, as black males or young black males, we are not a social problem. I mean, a lot of what this says is about students that have different issues and students that have different sorts of problems that we need to fix. Black men and young black males are not a problem that needs to be fixed. Okay? And so all this does is point attention to the fact some other kid is reading this or some other person's reading this, hey, there's just another problem that Winston Forsyth County schools need to fix. My son goes to Whitaker Elementary School. All right, he got a perfect score on the EOGs and scored in the 99th percentile. He's a black male. He doesn't need equitable treatment. He just needs equal treatment. That's what we all need. Thank you.
Thank you. The next person is Myra Boone-Gardner. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thanks for having me today, you all. I do not have children in Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools any longer. I'm here, though, at the request of some of the parents. They're actually afraid to speak. They're afraid of retaliation. That's really sad. We asked you today to not approve the ESSER funds as laid out in your PowerPoint. The ESSER money being allocated for programs such as SEL, which, according to the Guilford County website, as it uses multiple circles to depict what it is, has the innermost circle labeled as social and emotional learning. And it also suggests that this feeds a child's growth and how they behave in society. This is the responsibility of parents, guardians, and families, not the schools. No two families are alike. We can't do Common Core for behavior. We do not approve or are hoping that you guys can see how embracing a program like this suggests that there's an attempt to force an ideology upon a child. That's not what school's for. Schools are for education, not indoctrination. Over $11 million of ESSER funds are also been marked, according to your PowerPoint, to increase mental health interactions, and not even mentioning parent involvement. The school system has no right to dabble in mental health of a child without parents' consent or present. They have no right to prescribe medication or treatments. You can't even give an aspirin or a hug in schools. The last thing we need to do is increase staff and programs. If this does go forward, there needs to be a parent, community, advisory board to police these actions. We parents feel very strongly that the school systems from the national viewpoint has done a lot to remove God and pride in our country. We're not going to stand by and watch you remove parents. ESSER funding for some of these programs like SEL and Equity will not teach greater degrees of trust. You're carrying a banner of diversity while practicing racism under the guise of anti-racism. No decent person approves of racism, but the concept of anti-racism, it has a much more sinister meaning. Under this system of ideas, white children are defined as oppressors. Minority children are defined as victims. We need to be very wary of this self-fulfilling prophecy. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next, we have James Smith.
Ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate you giving me the opportunity here to express my concerns. I don't have children in the school system here. In fact, I never have. I'm a transplant, 21 years in the military, and I've settled in Forsyth County, and my wife and I love it very much, and we just want to see it going in the right direction. We're both very concerned about what we're teaching our children. I don't think this program should go forward because from what I've seen of everything, it teaches hatred. It teaches that some kids don't have a chance in life while other kids are going to have basically a free ride. What we need to teach our kids is that they can go as far as their initiative and effort want to take them. Look at Mr. Eustache. He's a lawyer. That wasn't given to him. He fought for it. And I think we need to teach our kids to fight for what they want out of life. Don't expect it to be given to them. And don't hate somebody else because they worked a little bit harder and maybe got a little bit farther. I love this country, and I'd like to see it turned around, and I'd like to see us get back to God. And I'd like to see us teach our children to have respect for themselves, each other, and everyone else. The color of someone's skin really shouldn't matter. Let's let racism die a painful and horrible death because it should never be here. And I think that programs like CRT further that because they they open that divide up and highlight that racism. And yes, this country's done a lot of things in the past and still does today, some things that we're not proud of. But we can't sweep them under the rug. We have to teach our children about the bad things. We also have to teach them about 150 years of progress. And teach them that this is the greatest country on earth and they can do anything they want to do. All they got to do is work for it. I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Next, we have Ashley Wallace, but I would like to say, on behalf of this board, to Mr. Smith, thank you for your service to our country. Thank you so much.
Good evening, Superintendent McManus, Ms. Woodbury, and members of the board. If last year taught me anything, it taught me that, one, the people who make decisions for our children in public schools don't always have their best interest at heart. And two, parents need to be more involved and fight for what is best for their children. With that being said, I have concerns with how the ESSER funds are going to be used in SEL. I didn't have a lot of knowledge on SEL, so I've been doing some research on it, and I have 2 quotes from Scientific American. 1, a child must make judgments to choose right and wrong actions. When he acts in accordance with his sense of what is right, he grows in moral character and develops greater self-control. While Mind Up claims to be teaching non-judgmental awareness of thoughts and feelings, it actually teaches a child to judge any thought or feeling besides optimism and happiness as bad. 2, the program even encourages a child to do things for others with the motive of getting a pleasurable sensation, a dopamine high for himself. Thus, rather than practicing self-control, children instead practice self-indulgence. They learn to escape from reality and difficult relationships rather than working through them. I thank you for taking the time to listen to a mother who is not only looking out for her child, but all the children in Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools and has their best interests at heart. Thank you.
Thank you. Last we have, looks like Dr. Margaret Carter.
Madam Chairman, and thank you. I do have some concerns that Myra touched upon. I'm not active in the school system. I'm not in education. Obviously, I'm in medicine. I'm a semi-retired anesthesiologist, but I've always had an interest in other fields. I've actually done some home health evaluations, and they were so much fun. But I try to keep abreast of things, including as COVID came along. I was very alarmed very early. And fortunately, thank the Lord, we have the vaccine and the pandemic is moving toward being under control. One of these our fine state senators sent a general email out, and I corresponded with her. And Madam Chairman, I don't know if this is relevant to the funds you're talking about, but I think it is. Myra talked about the circle of things, mental health, nursing care. I think it's wonderful to have health care in the schools, but the alert that I got from one of our very fine state senators is that some of her constituents were very concerned and had an important question, a common sense question. Is it possible for a child to receive a vaccine or other medical treatment without parental consent? I don't know. I certainly hope that this the Forsyth County school system is not leaning in that direction. I think it is dangerous for several reasons. One is the COVID vaccine trial currently in 12 to 18-year-olds. It's still in its infancy, and we're starting to see some problems. The incidence is low. According to the AMA, the risk-benefit ratio is still favorable toward receiving a vaccine, but several more specific to children, several complications have come along. Again, the incidence is very, very low, a very small fraction of a %. But one that concerns me and is in the process of being studied, and it does occur naturally too, is myocarditis, inflammation of the heart muscle. All it would take would be a vaccinated child who, upon the second vaccination, 4 or 5 days after vaccine number 2, this is statistically, when it is occurring as a vaccine complication, it is self-limited for the most part, but a child with myocarditis needs to chill. They don't need to be on a basketball court. The parents need to know that they are vaccinated. They need to watch them, just in general. They need to be informed. And I would like just the reassurance that this is not going to happen in our county or across our school system.
Thank you, Dr. Carter.
And I just wanted to recognize Mr. Eustace also served our country in the military, so thank you.
Next on our agenda is discussion items. The first item is our May 2021 financial statements by Ms. Andrea Gillis, our Chief Financial Officer.
I'm hoping she saw this was 5:30 and not 6:30.
I think she's in the building.
She is here? Oh, good.
I think
She
she's
is
in
here?
the building.
Oh, yeah.
She'll probably be running in again and out of breath.
Out of breath. Just walk. It's fine. We've done this to you before.
Good evening, board members, Chair Woodbury, Tricia McManus. I'm here today to present the financial statements for the month of May. Here we have our general fund assets and liabilities. We did this time break out the fund balance between the restricted fund balance and the unrestricted and available fund balance. The next page is the page you're more familiar with, which is our statement of revenues and expenditures for the month of May. We are a little bit underspent because of the ESSER funds we received. We do have our ESSER funds allocated in this budget, which is why we're at 60% spent for revenues compared to last year because we just received our ESSER funds. Next are the statement of revenues and encumbrances for capital outlay. As you can see, we're still a little bit underspent on capital outlay for the year. Next, we have our child nutrition balance sheet. And on the next page will be the statement of revenues, expenses, expenditures, and encumbrances. So for the month of May, as of May, we are actually only $888,000 short for the year. We anticipate having a better year than we thought. We anticipated we had $5 million in fund balance appropriated to cover the net loss that we anticipated, but because we came back to school and kids are buying lunches now, and we have not buying lunches, but kids are eating lunch, and we're getting the reimbursement from the feds because of the child nutrition program, we are able to sustain our expenses.
And that money was from the child nutrition fund balance, not the...
Yes, they had their own fund balances separate from the operating budget, and theirs is completely separate. Here we have the revenues, expenses, and encumbrances for the daycare program. Right now, we're ahead of the game a little bit by $18,000. And that's it for the financial statements. Next is the big one.
Is this the budget amendment
Yes.
6 and transfer?
Number 6, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, Kevin, can you pull it up for me? Oh, it's not attached? It's not attached. I attached it earlier today. Ooh. Okay. I attached it because I just finished it just now. How would I do that? I can log in to the drive, right? Let me log in. Yeah, but I did it right before I came here, and I maybe not have saved it, so I can get to my P drive.
Chair Woodbury, if these are just discussion items, maybe we could move on to the ESSER discussion, and then that way, they're not just so far under
Yeah,
the gun
sorry.
trying to get that, and we, because we're not taking action. Would that be possible?
Yes,
Well,
absolutely.
before we do that, I did have a question. So you said we received our ESSER funds, but that's just part of the ESSER funds. We'll receive some more in the fall. Is that
No, we actually received all of our ESSER funds.
for, and we don't
Phase
receive
one.
all of the, we received like just for the next school year. We'll receive some more?
No, they gave us the full amount.
So all 200 or?
Yes, 215 million we received. Now,
Okay.
they've allotted all 215 million. Well, we received it all, our grant was approved, but they didn't allot all the cash to us, but we went ahead and appropriated the full budget because we received it and it was approved.
Okay,
So, but that money would just be carried over in the following years.
right. So we're just, right. We're going to spend that when we said we were going to spend it. It just is we have the
Yes,
money.
exactly. With this grant, we have 3 years to spend the grant, but they give you all the funds up front.
Okay.
Because some districts may choose to spend more money in the beginning and less at the end, but our plan is to kind of spend it a little bit at a time.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, I'm gonna come over there and download my file while Tricia talks about it, sir.
Thank you.
Did you want us to
Yeah.
get started? Okay. So I know that I think it was last week when we were together, we actually did the slide by slide, and I know that I wasn't going to do that again tonight, but I was just going to highlight a few of the items that we discussed. First of all, the ESSER dollars, staff created the initial plan, and then we went out into 10 community forums and got feedback from community groups, which included staff, parents, community members. The smallest group were general community members, but the largest groups were staff, parents, and then also, staff and parents. And so we took all of that to devise this plan. And so I wanted to highlight a few things. As you all know, there were specific areas that we could address. The actual titles of those areas were not determined by school districts, but were determined by the state on what we could spend the dollars on. So I'm just going to recap a few things because everybody has seen the PowerPoint. We went through it very, very clearly last week. But basically, a few of the things that are really, I think, important in the plan are our use of literacy coaches in our elementary schools to actually help our teachers with the implementation of the science of reading and really making sure that all of our students are getting access to high-quality instruction in reading. And so all of our teachers are getting training, and so the best way to really implement your training is to get some coaching. And so that's a big part of our plan is the use of literacy coaches. Also, something that was important is the experiences our students receive from hands-on exploration and field trips. That was something else we want to bring back. Students have not had those opportunities this year. In general, things were closed. A lot of things were closed, but then also with virtual learning for part of the year. And so we want to bring that back and bring that back strong so our students can get those hands-on experiences. I will say something else very important in the plan is the use of MTSS interventionists who are actually in schools to actually support students that are less than proficient in reading or mathematics, where they get more one-on-one individualized support. And so it's an effort to help students that might be behind or struggling to catch up. And then the other, I think, really important, and we didn't talk about the amount last week, but this was something that many people mentioned is, could we give a retention bonus to employees? And so that is part of the plan, and that would be $1,000 for each employee, regardless of their role. It's not a percentage, and so that's bus drivers and student nutrition and teachers and TAs and all different levels of folks. And so that was something that the community thought was important based on feedback, and that was part of the plan. Something else was to expand partnerships for after-school programs. That was another important thing, to have more opportunity in after-school programs for students that don't have that opportunity to do things after school. This would give them more opportunities. Also, lots of professional development was part of the plan, both in the science of reading and in other areas of the curriculum, of content areas like mathematics and other areas. High school graduation coaches was a big item that we received a lot of good feedback from, to support students that are in high school that may have fallen behind in credits, get them back on track to graduate with their peers. I'm going to address the page that did talk about mental health. The title of this page is Providing Mental Health Services and Supports. I do, because that was a topic this evening, do want to mention a little bit more about that. And I actually appreciate when people come forward and speak, give feedback, because I wanted to get a little bit deeper with this area. So the mental health coaches part, we decided would go with School Health Alliance, which are actually stationed in schools to provide those kind of services. Those are services that are supported by with parent input. Those are not services that the school district provides in isolation. What we do provide regularly is our counselors and social workers provide just individual, not counseling, mental health counseling, but just general counseling to students about if you're having a problem in your classroom with another student. And these are things that have been happening for generations, but we are going to actually provide a few more staff to do that as students come back. We've heard from a lot of parents that have said our students are going to need more support. It could be a student that's having an argument with friends, and counselors address that. It could be students that in high school that need support in picking college opportunities or other opportunities. Counselors do that. And what we've heard over time is that we don't have enough of those. And this grant is not providing enough of those either, because we also want to make sure that we can sustain the roles over time. So our proposal here is 5 more counselors, 5 more social workers, and 5 more psychologists. Our psychologists spend time doing the assessments for testing for students so that they can get the services they need, whether they end up qualifying for EC or qualifying for other programs. But those, again, these are services that have been provided for a long time. I do want to talk about SEL, though, because the social emotional learning coaches, so SEL, as a former principal, we had a program, and what the program did every day was talk about kindness and respect. And yes, those are things that kids should learn at home. I'm a mom. I teach my kids that. But I will say we are serving all children in our district, and we want to make sure that all children learn the habits of respect and how to treat people and how to build that classroom culture where we encourage one another and all of that. And again, those are skills and things that are taught at home. But social emotional learning, there are programs like Second Step that are used in districts everywhere. They're not teaching anything other than kindness, respect. That's it. I think it's things that we would all want our own kids to be learning. And most kids come to school with those, exhibiting those characteristics, but some don't. And so by us actually showing that, like we are, again, educating all children in our district. It was called Character Ed many moons ago. And so I don't know if there are other terms for SEL, but what I will say is SEL coaches will help our instructors, because again, SEL is not something you isolate one time of the day. SEL is how we treat people all day long. It's how we interact all day long. It also goes along with school-wide behavior plans. Why do we have school-wide behavior plans? It's honestly to maintain an expectation for how we treat each other and how we act at school. And if we don't have that, I'm telling you, chaos will possibly be present in some cases. You bring a lot of kids together, And a lot of kids, and we need to set expectations. SEL is actually, it's interesting, the perspective tonight, I'm going to dig into it more because I've never heard that perspective. And as a former principal, social emotional learning was something that we always did in our schools. And I used to have a morning meeting, and that's where we did it. And the kids loved it. They loved it, and they thrived from it. And it brought your classrooms together as a community. And so that's the purpose of this. It's not anything else. I just wanted to make sure that that was highlighted. When we talk about teachers getting training in mental health aid and crisis prevention and trauma. So there is specific research about how people deal with trauma and how educators should work. And I'll be honest with you, in dealing with trauma, what it actually is about, a lot of it is building relationships and understanding what every child needs, not treating every child the same. One child might not need any special treatment, as we described earlier, but somebody else might. And so really what all these things are is about how do we make sure every one of the learners that we are so privileged to serve every day get what they need to be successful down the road. And it's not all going to be the same. I mean, even in our own households, what our kids need is different from one kid to the other, raised by the same parents. That's how I look at educating our children. And that's what this plan is about, is when our children get to that finish line of high school graduation, number one, can they all read? Can they all write? Can they all perform on grade level? And then can they go on to do the next thing, which may be military, maybe college, maybe career, maybe all of the above? But that is our job in education, to work alongside our parents and our community to do that. And so this plan, again, is really about, are we making sure we have the right supports across the board for every one of the children we serve? Again, we serve an amazing, diverse community of students from all different backgrounds, from all different ethnicities, from all different races. And if one of our students is not achieving, then I feel we're not succeeding as a district. And if a group of students, depending on whatever we classify that, is not achieving, then we have to do something different. These funds are a chance to do that and to make sure that every single one of the students we serve, no matter what their race, no matter what their income, their family's income, because most of them are not working, they're little kids. So are they all successful? So that's how I look at this plan, to work in partnership with our families, in partnership. Trust me, I don't want to raise 52,000 students. I had a hard enough time raising my two. But I will say that I do take responsibility, and so does my staff, and so does our entire district, to make sure every student gets whatever it is that they need to be successful, no matter what they walk in the door possessing. And I will tell you this, every one of our students, every one walks in the door possessing genius that they may not even know. And our job as educators, public educators, is to pull it out of them and to make sure they have that success. And honestly, that's a relationship with families, and we can't do it outside of families. And so I will just tell you, there's a lot more in this plan with summer school, which we've just started. There's a lot of summer school opportunities, a lot of one-to-one devices, so kids can have that technology at their fingertips, not be taught by the technology, but have it as a resource at their fingertips. The outdoor learning area, so kids can eat outside for that, have that fresh air, and that, that's another part of this. And then there's a lot of other things in here as well. The orientations to allow families and children to come back early so that they can get reacclimated to school for the large percentage that never did come back last year. We need them to come back and get reacclimated. We've got a lot of work to do next school year. And so, again, these funds are just going to open doors across the board in many areas. And again, we appreciate the feedback. We've heard from a lot of groups and folks that have come tonight. I appreciate the feedback. So as we're approaching this work, it just helps us make sure we are targeted on the right things. So that's, again, I didn't go back to the whole PowerPoint, but highlighted a few of the things that are in our ESSER plan right now. Yes.
So I've actually had some experience with the social and emotional learning already. One of the differences from when I grew up, we used to sit in a line and we worked individually. Now they do this cooperative learning a lot more. And sometimes you work with someone you don't like. You just don't like. And that happened to one of my children this year. So they went to the guidance counselor and they sat down and talked, and they had a group tactic kind of meeting. How can you dress somebody you don't like? And they worked together until she could sit down at a table and get it done. And she did. It was wonderful. But life, you don't get to work with everybody you like. So you need to learn that skill, and it's just one more additional thing to learn.
Yep.
The other thing was CRT. It's not just trades. And that trades are very important, and I really like them. But I also know that it's magnets. It includes engineering. It includes advanced arts. It includes digital media. It includes so many programs that give people an edge forward in life. Some of them can graduate, especially at Adkins. They can graduate with an Adobe certificate and get a job right out of school. That is critical. Being able to work and have a choice, or go to college and have a choice, or go on to the military. Those are all important. Every single one of them is important.
Absolutely.
Chair Woodbury, Superintendent McManus, I think there were a few questions that were directly asked that under the guides of the ESSER funds. And so can we just go on record and be clear? Are we as a district planning anything to vaccinate children without parental consent?
No, we're not doing any vaccinations as part of this ESSER funding. As far as vaccines, no, we are not doing any vaccines. We cannot do vaccines without parental consent.
And I think some of the, and so, I've seen, and people have shared some of the videos around, social emotional learning in other parts of the country, or things that have gone, bad. I don't think we would want that here. In some of the, I know we talked about school counselors, but in some of these other areas that we already do, but we are going to expand those because of during this time for ESSER. We're not giving medication.
No, not unless we want to end up
right. So I think
somewhere we don't want to be.
So,
no, we are not. We cannot give are you saying prescribed medication?
Right.
I mean,
think we had
our
talked about-
clinics. Our nurses actually, if a child is on medication, yes, our nurses can
they give it.
Give it because the parents, that's part of the process.
But we're not writing prescriptions,
No,
is what I'm trying to
no,
say. And I
we
think
cannot do that.
The other piece to that is, I understand the concern because I think that we are a very diverse group of students and families in our community. And so in doing this, we're making sure that services we're including the parents. So if I'm an elementary school child, that I am not given any type of service without my parent knowing. Just as parents have to sign off on IEPs and other things, it's a parent-school relationship. Am I right with how that's going to be, and is there monitoring to that?
So I would say there are basic things that happen every day that a child may want to see the counselor, or there's an argument that happens, like Ms. Bramer mentioned, that a school counselor will probably talk to the kids. That probably won't be, hey, do you mind if I talk to your child? I think that's just part of their role as counselors. If there's a bigger problem, the first person we would call is the parent to talk about this problem. That's part of the process. So yeah, they should be included. But again, on the day-to-day, I mean, even as a principal, I talk to kids all the time, and I did not call a parent to ask permission to do that. That's our role, to help them feel part of the school. It's part of building culture and building relationships and making kids want to be at school, making it a safe space where they feel included. So as far as any kind of major service that's a mental health service, first of all, that's why I said the mental health counselors would be served through SHA, but we have people that can do mental health counseling, but they include families. They would include the parents in this conversation. So it's not, I wish I had the background on what the picture that's being painted is about what a child would be provided that their parent might not be included, and maybe I just need to get more information about that.
I can honestly say that my experience, I'm a parent in the school system, I have two. My child cannot take a Tylenol without a written, signed form by me. So they can't take, no child, I can't call and say, take it. I can't bring it and drop it off. You must sign a form. There is a liability issue, so you must sign a form.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that I did do some volunteering vaccinating in our schools, and there were 3 different levels where we checked permission, parental permission, before anybody received a vaccine. Anybody who knows me knows I'm very intense about following the rules, and when the rules say we will not vaccinate your children without parental consent, a child might sit there and say, my mom's in the back of the room, and I would say, the mom's going to come and talk to me before I'm going to give you a vaccine. We're very serious about knowing what the boundaries are, and in our district, we do not medically treat children. We just don't do it, and I think it's important to know that.
I will say that we are partnering with the health department to try to bring, there are vaccines that need to be given to students that they exclude them if they don't have them, mostly in kindergarten, and then there's another grade, I think, Dion, what is it, 7th grade? The other middle school. For high school, and it excludes children from coming to school if they don't have it. So you will see us open houses in other places and things like that, hosting vaccine sites, but the parents would be there. The kids would not just walk through a vaccine line. No.
And that's I think those are things that a lot of times you receive at your pediatrician's office, but if you
Yes.
don't have the access to that, we've been doing that for a while in the district.
Ms. McManus, I just wanted to make reference and ask for your consideration around the literacy coaches. I think that it is ideal for them to definitely work with our teachers, but I think also for those whom are experts in literacy to have intentional contact with students by working with our students in small groups for any literacy needs. Sometimes I've seen the model where the PD coaches actually also engage with the students. Then the second point I wanted to make, just for clarity for this community and our community at large, is for you to highlight the decree from our state superintendent around critical race theory and what's the statement for Safe County Schools policy around using that curriculum.
So first of all, it's not part of a curriculum. So we are not teaching critical race theory. As we approach our work, are we looking at our students by what each of them need to be successful? And that is sometimes by race. I mean, if we look at our achievement rate, our achievement, we have major gaps. We have major gaps if you look at our white children compared to our black children compared to our Hispanic children. And it is not putting all kids, because there are black children that are very high performing, there are Hispanic children very high performing, there are white children very low performing. That is not why we're looking at race, but what we feel like is if we have such a large percentage of students in one race not doing well, that's something we need to do something better as far as educating them. And it is not saying they're all the same. That's not what any of this is about. It is about looking at what every child needs and making sure they're successful. And so one child may not need an assigned mentor through his upbringing. Another child might. And it actually could be the difference maker for him or her to go to college or to go on to the next part of their life. So in other words, if we have kids falling through the cracks, if we have kids not reading on grade level, and if we look at their race or their exceptionality or their gender, and we have gaps, we have to fix those gaps, or we are not an effective school system, period. And so, yes, we are not teaching critical race theory. Are we, as a senior team and as our schools and our leaders, looking at our data, digging into it, finding root causes of what's wrong and fixing it? That's what we're doing in our system. And yes, we have to look at the racial demographics of our students, because the gaps are very, very eye-opening, and we can't ignore them.
Can I just ask again very directly, is critical race theory, as one of our speakers talked about who took a graduate level course in critical race theory in law school, are we teaching critical race theory in our curriculum?
In the curriculum, no.
Okay, I mean,
No.
I just think that needs to be very clear that we are not teaching what people call critical race theory as a part of the K-12 curriculum.
Correct. But are we,
And
but,
are we
yes, no,
addressing issues concerning race? Of course.
yes,
As we are required by law to do, and as our schools are graded by subgroups. But I think separating what is in the curriculum and what we are trying to do is make sure we're having a wide and inclusive curriculum where children see
Absolutely.
themselves. But that is not
It's not about the
taking
curriculum.
a theory called critical race theory that is usually taught at graduate levels and embedding that and hiding that in our K through 12 curriculum. Am I
No.
correct?
that is not what we're doing.
Okay.
What we are doing
And
is,
are
yes,
we
I'm sorry.
required by law, we are required to look at student achievement and break it down? Is that not?
I'm assuming it's in the law, but we're doing it because it's also what we
Well,
should
I
be
mean,
doing.
I've been on the-
So I don't know if it's in the law.
I've been on the board
Yes,
for
it might be in the
14
law.
years, and schools are judged, and
Yes,
the
they
No
are.
Child Left Behind law required us to
Absolutely.
designate
Yes, because we,
subgroups
one of the
and pay
subgroups is also,
attention.
yes, one of the subgroups is also, yes, we are judged on subgroups, including EC students as a subgroup. And many of our schools are designated TSI, right? Am I getting all my language? TSI, because they are underperforming in that subgroup. So
Right,
yes,
so
to answer your question,
that's what I was
yes.
trying to make clear,
Yes.
is that the No Child Left Behind federal legislation required
Yes.
schools to identify how children were doing in different
Yes.
subgroups, and that we are indeed judged and graded on how those students
Yes,
are doing.
that is true.
And so when somebody says, why are we doing that, that's actually part of the law of No Child Left Behind, that still, I believe, is the law of the land, so.
Yes, that is true.
And I just wanted to be clear
Yeah.
about that, that one of the things districts do is it may feel to people who are sort of aware some of the time, is that public education plays by the rules. If you want to meet a group of people who give me the rules, tell me what they are, and then play by them, that's what public educators do. And they're trying to teach children to play by the rules, and they're trying to make sure that the rules in the schools are fair to children. And so I really find that educators as a group really are committed to both playing by the rules, having fair rules, and teaching fair rules to children.
That is true.
So, thanks.
Madam Superintendent, I had just a couple questions in a sort of different vein. So, to sort of the notion around how we're teaching children, particularly children of color, I know that within the ESSA presentation, there was specifically language around the mentoring of black males. I'm aware that other districts that are racially and ethnically diverse sometimes have plans specifically for certain groups, particularly groups that are underperforming. But I wanted to know if you could speak to, because I do think that a point about providing children with the skills to develop the grit and resilience to be able to move forward, the sort of internal belief that if you work really hard, that you will produce results. I think that's important. But I also think that, I want to make sure that we're communicating why these types of things are important, specifically like having individual, the sort of programming around, mentoring black males, because as a black male, I think that that's something that there's a reason why we're seeing that in other places. And I also think that it sort of has to be this sort of kind of double the approach where you're developing the grit and the resilience, and you're trying to prevent this deficit mindset from growing. But I also think that there's some intentionality around programming and the things that we're trying to do for those populations. So could you speak to that a little bit?
Yes, so I agree with everything you said. So I'm wondering, wondering how to ad lib on that, or how to add to that, other than, yes. So basically, we are looking, there are many programs across the country that target specific groups, but again, it is not that because you are a woman and we want more women scientists, I'll just give this example, doesn't mean that, I mean, I could be the greatest scientist, I don't need that. But what I'm saying is, everything we're doing goes down to the needs of the children, and what will meet their needs. I will say that no matter what the background of a child, no matter what the income of their family, when they walk in the door, we should all treat them like everyone can excel. And that is what I expect. And so that's first and foremost with everything we do. Number two, we expect in-classroom strategies to build relationships, meet the needs of the children where they are. We are not trying to put kids into a bubble that we've created, but actually meet them where they are and help them be successful. Mentoring is something that benefits everyone. Coaching and mentoring benefits everyone. But I will tell you, over my 30 years, I have seen it make a huge difference in having a student stay in school and come to school every day that maybe didn't have the backing of someone every day saying, get up and go to school, but because of that mentor, they came. Because of seeing that mentor, they excelled. Because of seeing that mentor, they made other decisions. And so, again, this is about what does every one of our students need? And there are many community members that have said, and I agree, that there is a population or a subgroup of students, not all people fit in this criteria, but that could benefit from additional mentoring by successful, and I'll just say black boys, by successful black men. And I'm not saying it's not all needed, but there are some students that really benefit, whose parents have said, oh my gosh, can you pair my child with a mentor? Is there something for my child to help them see the future? Why do you think we take college trips? Why do you think we do all these things? It's to show kids the possibility of the future, and we cannot assume that every kid is going to just get that on their own, or get that because they were blessed to have parents that can provide that. All of our parents care about their kids. All of them can't provide the same way. So what we have to do is say, how can we help? And that is our job as in public education. That is our job. That is what we're here to do. And I'm going to say it again. If one of our kids falls through the cracks and doesn't graduate and go on to have a productive life, then we have failed. And that's how I look at it.
So, Ms. McManus, would those programs be available to boys or girls, Latino, white, whatever their background, special education? I think the comment from the public earlier was more about that it was targeting one gender and one race. And I mean, there are many poor white kids, or poor,
absolutely.
There's poor kids that are not, or they might not even be poor. There could just be where parents aren't as involved or don't understand as much as how they can help their child, because they're working 3 jobs or whatever. So
correct.
Could these programs be available to any student with need and who wants to do it, rather than targeting one
yes,
group?
Absolutely. I will tell you that the majority of everything in this is targeted at kids that are not where they are academically proficient, struggling, maybe being, we've heard from many parents that their kids being home for a year has really impacted their social, emotional health. I mean, we've heard that from parents. And so what they're asking for, and it's not all, but many have said, can my kid's going to need more when they come back to school. So what is this for? That's why the government gave us $215 million. It's not to do things that are out there in left field. It's to address the needs of our kids now. And so if there any kid that's struggling academically, that is social, emotionally, we need to meet their needs. So yes, there are mentoring programs. And again, this is not the end all be all. One thing we said last week was we've got many other programs across the district and schools. We've got tutoring programs. We've got buddy mentor programs with community members coming into schools. We've got so much support across. This is just icing on the cake on top of what already is existing in our schools or might be funded in other ways. So again, any student falling through the cracks under our watch is a problem for us. That's any student.
Thank you, Ms. McManus. I think we, if Unless there's another question about the presentation, I think we can go back to Ms. Gillis for our amendment and transfer.
I do apologize for earlier. I forgot to hit the save button when I uploaded my file because I'm on 3 hours of sleep because tomorrow is D-Day for finance. June 30th, as you know, is our fiscal year end. And we have to have everything done by tomorrow at midnight and send our file to DPI. So I am on caffeine right now. So, so you have to forgive me, which is why I've been scrambling trying to get in here. Okay, so we have a lot of budget amendments this time because for one, we have some of our ESSER funds in here, and also we are, like I said, closing the books, which means we are adjusting all of our revenues to match what we actually received from our grants, and making sure we transfer funds between, doing journal entries, making sure we fully expend all of our state funds because we don't want to revert anything back. So it's pretty long. So the first one is local current expense fund. There was an amendment, we're doing an amendment to appropriate the funds for our before care, after care programs at the one this before school and after school care, and then the daycare program at the downtown school. Next section is federal grants. This is a pretty large section. Okay, we have $212,000 reduction to the IDA handicap grant. They give us a preliminary allotment, and then during the year they adjust it. So this is the final adjustment. Next, we have a reduction in our IDA Children with Disabilities grant of $36,000. Next is an increase of the IDA preschool grant of $7,329. And then we have an amendment for $1,356 for the language acquisition grant. We received an ESSER competency-based assessment grant of $309,000. We also received another ESSER grant for digital K-8 curricula of $9,632. Actually, that's additional funds. We already got the grant. We got additional funds. This amendment here is the $148 million for the ESSER 3. This is 2, but this is actually 3 grant. And then we have a reduction of $9,306 for the Improving Teacher Quality Grant, which is Title II. This next amendment is for the Title IV program, an increase of $4,574. The next one is an amendment to the Title I grant of $147,000. The next page is additional amendment for our original CARES grant of $57,561. And that's the total of federal grants. And I know you guys are wondering, like, we got a lot of amendments, but during the year, DPI, and we just got an amendment today. And that's not even included in here. We got more money for, we got a notice from DPI saying we got additional funds today for 6B, EC 6B. The funds carry over, thank God, but we just got an allotment today, so that's why you see a lot of things happening with the federal grants right now. Okay, the next amendment is the state public school fund. We had our final state allotment, so we make sure we tie to all of our state revisions, and that's $1.8 million. We have ins and outs in every purpose code, but the total was $1.8 million. The next fund is the other restricted funds. So these are our grants that we receive from community partners and other foundations. We have $131,000 for a summer enrichment program. That's actually our summer enrichment program where we get parents pay for the summer enrichment program. This is the funds for that. We also have another $320,000 from Project Impact for the early learning coaching support. We have $59,918 for United Way tutoring program at Carver and Philo. We have a $126,000 amendment for the Foresight Futures data sharing reimbursable grant. This is when they actually give us the money. We had $32,000 amendment for the United Way data sharing reimbursable grant, $15,000 for the Verizon Innovation Learning Lab at East Forsyth Middle, $45,000 for Project Impact Pathway to One Summer Program, $301,000 for the Peer Project Teacher Academy, $1,700 for the UNCG Project Enact Grant, $50,000 for the Lead Together project, $1,307 for the Parental Involvement Unit, $3,000 for Peer Project Math Collaboration, $45,000 for the Pathway to K grant, $24,000 for the budget amendment for the fund the new letters training from Read, Write, Spell, $149,400 for the funds for racial equity and anti-racism learning, a reduction of $1,468 for the Youth Problem Gambling Grant, $706,000 in additional funds for NC Pre-K program, $596,000 for the Project Impact Early Learning Coaching Grant, additional $101,000 from DCE to pay for some bonuses that we paid out earlier this year, $155,000 for the Project Impact Transitions program, and we have an adjustment to the Project Impact carryover from the prior year. This amendment here is to close out any of the other additional revenue, not grants, but like other revenue, like miscellaneous revenue and other revenues that we get. This is the additional revenue I received this year. We had a correction to a Project Impact Classified PD grant, and we also had a correction to the gambling grant for a total of $2.8 million in total. Next, we have capital outlay. We have $894,000 for the 2016 bond for Metal Arc traffic improvements, $1.4 million for the bond for the Griffith Elementary School addition, $900,000 for the bond for Ashley Elementary School, $1.5 million for the 2016 bond for the East Forsyth High School renovation, $20.4 million for the 2016 bond for the Kennedy High School renovation, $1.5 million for the 2016 bond for Ward Elementary School addition, $215 million for the bond for safety and security camera updates, $7.265 million for the maintenance and capital projects, a reduction of $48,000 just to amend the carryover for the 2018 two-thirds bonds, and then we have a budget amendment for the purchase of yellow buses of $2 million. Next, we have 2.79, which corrects a carryover of the revenue for the bond capital projects, and then $2,000 for travel tracker revenue, for a total of $39 million. I'm sorry.
So, Andrea, the yellow buses, is that to upfit the buses?
No, the state.
Or did we buy more?
Yeah, the state gives us an allotment for buses. The state buys buses, so these are the yellow buses, not the activity buses.
But you put the dollars in there?
Yeah, we have to. They give us the allotment. We have to appropriate it.
And then we go buy the bus.
Yeah, well, technically, they buy the buses. They give us the money to issue a PO, and then we just have to appropriate the funds just to show that we have the appropriation. But we do a PO to order the buses, and the state pays for the buses.
And then all of the bond money. So all those 9,000 codes. That's real. You're just really. Those are projects that are coming out of the gate.
Yes.
So that's the bond money that you're just putting in there.
Yeah, that's additional bond funds that we've received authorization to start those projects.
Okay.
Now we're going to talk about budget transfers. We have a few of those for local current expense fund. We have transfers at the school level where they're transferring between their school allotment funds. The next one is transfer from supplies and materials to curriculum development pay for the Media Services Center. The next one is to correct the prior budget amendment for charter schools. And then we have the state public school fund. We had a transfer within CTE. In federal funds, we had another transfer between CTE funds. We had a transfer between some of our ESSER funds. And then the restricted, we had transfer between Project Impact carryover funds.
So, and for clarification, so I know back when you go up to the charter school funds, and those are just our general, that it comes to us, and for those services, we give out to.
We take a portion of our local current expense fund, which is mostly the county appropriation, and then we have a little bit of fines and forfeitures, and we pay charter schools their proportionate share of the charter school funds, meaning we allocate based on the number of kids they have and the number of kids we have in the district, get a total, divide that by the total dollars available, and then we pay them a per pupil amount. Yeah.
And did we use any of that calculation for ESSER dollars that came through, or is that just local dollars?
It's just local.
So for ESSER funding, that
I
would
think
have
charter
gone
schools are
to,
available to get their own, charter schools get funded by the state, and I think they have their own ESSER funds.
but none of that would have come through us like it
No,
does for the
yeah,
local.
only the local funds come through the district.
Okay.
So, they get funded, charter schools get funded directly from DPI for their state funds. This next transfer is just a transfer to adjust for year-end closeout between purpose codes. This next one is a transfer of project impact evaluation specialist pay, just a transfer between purpose codes. Same thing for the next one. And that is it. And this is the next page is few pages are the summary pages. So we had a lot of amendments. Are there any questions? And if we have a meeting on Thursday, I may bring a few more, because I got tomorrow to midnight to get my stuff done. So I may have a few more transfers to do. Just transfers, not amendments, though. Are there any questions on any of these?
One quick one. I sent you an email, but is there a real high-level, quick explanation of the correction for the capital outlay fund? Just like a 30-second real quick high.
Let me see, which one?
The correction to the capital outlay?
Yeah, when we did the previous budget amendment, we inverted a number,
Okay.
and we just had to correct that so it tied to what, because we actually did the correction, we did it right in the system, but when we wrote it on the budget amendment that you approved, we inverted a number, and we had to change that so that what you approved matches what's in our system, because the auditors do check that. And FYI, that's why I'm trying to get things done, because we have an audit coming up. They actually have been here doing field work, and they're going to be coming back probably in August, late August, to do the audit.
Just a very quick comment. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for everything you do for our district. We are really grateful.
You're welcome. I'm happy to be here. If there are no more questions on the budget amendments and transfers, I will be.
Thank you, Ms. Gillis. The next item on our agenda is the action items. Our first action item is to consider approval of budget amendment number 6 and transfer number 6.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any question or discussion? All in favor? Motion passes. The next item is to consider approval of the ESSER funds spending plan.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any further question or discussion?
I have one comment to make. I am concerned about, I see we have a lot of after-school programming for the younger age groups. I am concerned about middle and high school kids who have, they don't need after-school for childcare, but, they've been isolated, some of them for a year and a half, and need to re-engage. And I want to make sure that we're providing something with extracurricular activities to help get them re-engaged.
And I had a comment, Chair Woodbury. I'm like Ms. McManus, Superintendent McManus. I like feedback, and I think that, folks who are here tonight also provided, a lot of questions that they had, and I sent those to the superintendent, and we were talking about that. I would tell, many of you that I know, and I would tell you that, I sit here, I've been here going on 8 years now, and some of the things that you might see in a classroom, I'm not telling you that politics sometimes doesn't enter our classrooms, because I think I would be lying if I told you it did. But not the majority of our classrooms. And so as parents and as people in the community, I think it's important for you, when you see something that you don't like, you bring it forward, right? That's what you're doing. But I don't think that Superintendent McManus could tell you that every single thing, every lesson, everything that's perfectly done, even when you take politics out of it, because that's not accurate. But the one thing that I will say is that, I'm glad to see people come and express their opinions, but I also think you have a lot of opportunities to mentor and to be involved in our school district. There are so many times that I will tell you that I haven't heard sometimes these voices or seen people show up in the 7 years that I've been here, probably not until tonight. And so I applaud you for coming, and I applaud you for doing that. I also think that I will tell you that I have, in these last years, developed relationships with people who are in our staff. that I trust. And do I always agree with every single thing? No. Do I always agree with Ms. Motzinger? No. But we we don't. But we have a good working relationship that we can agree to disagree, and that's the good part of that. That doesn't mean that she compromises anything she believes in, nor do I. But we can sit here and I think we get better at that. So I thank you for coming and doing that. And I would say that, to me, with all of these dollars that you see, these $250 million, that's about half of our normal operating budget that we have coming in. So we're going to keep, we are going to keep monitoring and evaluating that. And some of the things that happen in other parts of the nation, I can see why it's crazy. But I've been sitting here for 7 years. I haven't seen it in our district. I'm not saying that it can't happen tomorrow, but some of these things I haven't seen. And so, I get involved, stay involved, run for this board, do the things that we need, because right now our public education system is, we're not perfect, but I haven't seen those horrific things that sometimes I see play out on the news in the morning. And so I hope that you volunteer in our schools outside of your zip code. That's, so that you can see what's going on. And if you see something that's not right and we're not doing something right with those funds, then you need to call us and hold us accountable for it.
So I wanted to ask Dion, because just for clarification, so when we approve the plan, that's not to say that we're approving those particular spending items, right? So we still are going to follow our normal protocol, like when there's a purchase that needs to be made, if it meets our thresholds or whatever, we still have to approve those purchases, right? That's right. Thank you.
And I have one question, I guess, with the social emotional learning. If I remember in some of our discussions, we did talk about some of those funds for staff and for teachers, because as we all know, they've had a big sea change and a really emotional year as well. So I think are some of those things that if they need help or assistance, that we will have some.
So we couldn't fund those things through ESSER funds. So ESSER funds have specific guidelines, but we do have a wellness committee that is working on that, and we plan to use other funds to address employee wellness, but not this bucket right here.
Thank you. If there are no further question or discussion, all in favor? Looks like it's a unanimous vote. Motion passes. The next action item is to consider approval of Project Impact and the Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools Collaborative Agreement.
So moved.
Second.
Any question or discussion? I would just like to, on behalf of the board, definitely thank Project Impact through their leadership under Ms. Janet Wheeler and their $40 million, I think, commitment to literacy and helping our district meet the needs that we have. And I think Dr. Wilkes is here tonight to represent, if she would stand as the new executive director for Project Impact. She's already done so much great work in our district at the Cook Literacy School, and have done phenomenal work there. So we're happy that she is transitioning into a role where she can continue to impact students, especially around literacy. So I just wanted to make sure we recognize Dr. Wilkes tonight. Is there a motion? Yeah. We're there. Oh, okay, we were in question and discussion, sorry. All in favor, if there are no more further questions and discussion. Thank you. It's unanimous vote, motion passes. The next issue on our agenda is announcements. There are a few announcements tonight. One, Tuesday, August the 10th, 2021, our next meeting of the Board of Education. We are off in July. Then on Monday, August 16th, 2021, the first day back to school for our staff. And of course, we will be happy to receive our children face-to-face for a complete year, August 23rd, 2021, all things being equal and just everything go right, that our students would be face-to-face with us for a whole year and forever after. So that would be our first day back to school, and we can't wait to see our students from summer break. Another additional item that was added is Thursday, we will have another special call meeting, July 1st at 2 p.m. And then lastly, we definitely want you guys to have a safe and happy summer. Please get some rest. Please, let's continue in our community to support one another and continue to work towards what Mr. Smith talked about earlier today, our community working together to eradicate all that ails us, to make us a family and a community that come together for each other, especially our children. We have to go into closed, so I need to get a motion to go into closed for a personnel matter.
So moved.
Second.
There are no further question or discussion. Let it be known by aye for consensus.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on Your School Channel, Cable 2.
It's not. You mean our curriculum? No, it's not our curriculum. Then where is it? Where are you teaching it if it's not in the curriculum? Because you're teaching it somewhere because you specify, oh, you need it in the curriculum? No, it's not in the curriculum. They told us everything that's in it except what we were worried about.